Wurm Online is an old, uncompromising game of detail and complexity. I'm Bloody Drongo, and this tutorial video is going to be breaking down the, tutorial to help fill in some of the gaps and elaborate on certain details to ensure that you can actually hit the ground running with the game. Let's get started. When you first spawn in, you'll be greeted with a small welcome message in the top right that will run you through some of the basic controls. Note that you will need to do these things before you're given the continue option in the window. If you're playing in a different resolution, you may find your UI elements and settings may differ from what is shown here. If you get stuck, you can find the timestamp in the description of this video explaining the UI elements and how to interact with them later in the video, which may help you find or change things up so you can follow along. Alongside the tutorial pop-ups, you'll also have this message about customizing your character's appearance. You can do this once you've opened your inventory and finding the golden mirror and right-clicking on it and then using it. Please note that this is a one-time use item, and once you've used it, you will then have to pay in-game currency to change it again in the future. You can also only ever choose your gender once and never again. Once you've tackled the very basic character creator, the first obstacle for you to overcome is climbing this small slope. Climb is an on-off toggle mechanic which you can activate pressing Z or by activating on your quick bar, which you can find here. You'll then have climbed up into this area here. You'll be asked to activate your shovel from your inventory to start digging for the first time. When activating an item, it's important to note that you can tell which item you have activated by the green highlight of the item in your inventory. Whatever item displays to the left of your quick bar here, and whatever item is listed in the bottom of your inventory. Next, you'll come over to here and activate your hatchet from your inventory to chop down a tree. This is also where you're first introduced to the ability to examine things. This is a useful thing to take note of, since there are many things in Wurm that you'll need to examine to learn more about. As well as right-clicking on a tile or item and clicking on the eyeball icon to examine, you can also double left-click on something to do the same. From here, you will then head to the mine and be required to mine an ore from one of the veins of metal in the cave. To do this, you'll just need to select any of the mine options from the right-click window. For the tutorial, it won't matter what direction you choose to mine. I'll explain more about this mechanic in our mining tutorial video, but what you need to know right now is that anything you mine will appear on the floor below you, either in a pile of items or into a pile of ore. You can open this pile of items by right-clicking and then hitting open. The next section of the tutorial is here. It was originally meant to be a combat tutorial, however it was broken many years ago and was never fixed. So for the moment, you are simply going to equip your weapons and armor by opening the character window. To equip something, you can either drag it directly onto your character or its respective slot, or you can right-click on an individual item and select equip. If you want to do this really quickly, you can also hold shift and select multiple items at a time and drag them all onto your character at once. In the character window, you can see the various slots for equipment and what you currently have in those slots by mousing over them. A key thing to note is that holding something in your hands does not impact what item you currently have activated in your inventory. Wearing armor and your inventory carry weight will impact your movement speed. You can see the thresholds for these impacts by mousing over the top left of the character window on the little weight symbol. If you get injured in-game, you can treat your wounds from the character window by pressing the Show Wounds button, which is just below diagonally from the weight symbol. In the bottom left, you will see the body button. If you right-click on this, it will give you access to a whole bunch of really important management options for your character. Especially of note right now is under Manage and Profile. This will become important later in this video. In the bottom right is your hands. This is only important if a certain crafting action requires you to use your hand. Left clicking on it will activate your hand as a tool. You'll also notice the Unequip All button here, which, unlike what the name suggests, does not actually unequip all of your worn items. This one-click action more specifically removes anything that will reduce your movement speed. Things that won't be unequipped include things like weapons, tools, shields, backpacks, tool belts, or masks. The final thing introduced to you throughout this tutorial section is the journal. This is the place where you can find basic objectives to focus on when you're first plonked into the game world. This will give you some basic rewards which will help skill up your character. It's worth noting that for now, hunting for treasure and introduction to cartography are not things that are possible for new players, so disregard them for the time being. This pop-up tells you that you can ask for help or use the Wurmpedia. I'll explain about how to ask for help shortly, but to access the Wurmpedia, you can navigate to it through your web browser, which I'll link in the description of this video, or you can access it by right-clicking on an item or tile and clicking this icon, which will take you directly to the Wurmpedia entry for that particular thing. Once you've ended the tutorial, you'll instantly be teleported to the server New Dawn. This is a server specifically for staging and easing players into the game before they can head to the main servers. It has some limitations and is not intended for long-term settlement. If you wish to proceed to the main servers of the game, you can do so by right-clicking this giant crystal and selecting Use Portal. This is not recommended for new players because you will miss out on some rewards and cannot return here with your items in the future. You'll also be prompted to interact with the Artisan and Survivalist characters to get quests. These are NPCs which you can find here and here. You can interact with these NPCs by right-clicking on them and hitting talk. You can select a quest from this left column, which will give you a rundown of what you need to do and what your rewards are. You can accept multiple quests, so talk with both NPCs and accept all the quests you can. The Survivalist will give you a butcher knife here, which is very useful. You can check your current quests at any time by opening your journal and selecting the quest tab at the top. Okay, before we get started on our quests, let's cover off some basic information that is not covered already in the tutorial that is useful for you to know. This window is your chat window. The local tab is to talk to characters within your immediate local vicinity. You can see any nearby characters on the right-hand side listed here. It's worth noting that this chat tab does not work while you're in the tutorial area, but it does work here in New Dawn. If you get stuck during the tutorial help channel is where you can ask questions which are answered by volunteers and staff. Once you're in New Dawn, you'll have access to the CA help tab. This is where you can continue to ask questions to be answered, again by volunteers and staff. The GL Freedom tab is the global chat for the game. This allows you to communicate with everyone regardless of their server. The Freedom tab allows you to communicate with anyone on your current server only. The Trade tab is for price checks, buying and selling of in-game items, and is across all servers. All of these channels are English only. If you're a non-English speaker, you can find additional language-specific channels by opening up your character window, right-clicking on Body, selecting Manage and Profile, then selecting whichever is relevant to you under Other Settings. At the time of recording, Wurm has channels for Russian, German, Portuguese, and other non-English/Spanish chat. If you wish to directly message a player, you can do so by typing into the chat bar /T and their character name, or by right-clicking on their name in the chat window and selecting Open Chat. This UI element is your quick bar. Here you can toggle on and off climb, auto fighting, sleep bonus, your character window, skills, inventory, tool belt, and backpack if you have one. You can also open the map, your journal, your crafting menu, and your cooking menu. This window is your event tab. The event tab is where you'll receive information about your actions, the actions of nearby players, and their outcomes. You can also see what actions you currently have queued up and any ongoing action timers. The friend tab shows you the status of your in-game friends and when they last logged in. Speaking of friends, you can add a friend if you're nearby them by right-clicking their character model and selecting Add Friend. You can also add them remotely by typing /add-friend and then their character name. Your friend will then receive a pop-up, which they will then need to accept. There is also the Combat tab, which is like the Event tab, but specifically for combat-related information. This window is your inventory. Here you can see the items that you're holding, and you can see the quality of the item, the damage an item has, and the weight of the item. You can also search for specific items by using the search field at the bottom. Note that items you have equipped or are in your backpack or tool belt will not show here. Next is your compass. This will show the direction you are facing. Note that this may be hidden behind the tutorial pop-ups in the top right of your screen. This section up the top here shows the effect and duration of modifiers your character is experiencing by mousing over the icons. For new characters, you will see that you have a new player blessing, which makes your character heal faster, decreases the aggro range of hostile NPCs, decreased use of food and water, and also your character is illuminated so you don't need a lantern underground or at night. Also, you'll have new character item protection, which means your items will not drop on the ground in your corpse upon death. This next window here is the select window, where you can use it as a shortcut to interact with the game world if that's easier for you. These two windows are both related to combat, which we'll explain in our combat tutorial video. In the top left here, you'll see your character's name, and below that, the green bar, which is your stamina. This is probably the most important thing to keep track of, since you'll use stamina when you move and perform actions. The lower your stamina gets, the slower actions you try to perform will be, and once you run out of stamina completely, your movement speed will be significantly reduced, your action timers will max out, your ability to fight will be minimized, and if you're swimming, you will start drowning, and if you're climbing, you'll be forced to stop climbing and will fall. When you get injured, this will be represented on your stamina bar as a red bar, which will effectively reduce your stamina pool. When your bar is completely filled with red, you will die. The blue bar below stamina is how much water you have, and the bar next to it is your food. How fast your stamina replenishes is dependent on how hydrated and how well fed you are, so more is always better. If you mouse over this, you will see a breakdown of your stats here. You'll also see your calories, carbs, fats, and proteins. These dictate additional modifiers, which we'll explain in a future tutorial. But for the moment, just consider these as generally being better the higher they are. The final bar is sleep bonus. Sleep bonus can be gained by completing journal entries, quests, consuming sleep powder, and by logging off in a bed in-game, which will accrue sleep bonus passively for you while you're logged out. Sleep bonus, when used, gives you increased stamina regen and doubles your skill gain. With all of these UI elements, you can move, resize, and even minimize them all at your will by left-clicking and holding along the top of them. You can lock them into place by right-clicking and selecting Lock Window, and you can unlock them again in the future by doing the same again. This is how I personally prefer to set up my UI. If you ever accidentally close and lose a UI element, you can reopen it by hitting Escape and navigating to this top bar and selecting Interface. This drop-down list allows you to toggle on and off UI elements. Additionally, from the top bar, you can select tools to get additional information on cooking recipes you've discovered, toggle on in-game timers for reminders, which you can add in by right-clicking and adding the information required. You can also look at your achievements, world map, Valorant map, access the Wurmpedia, open the console, and access in-game support. Clicking more here allows you to access other HUD settings and toggles. Clicking hotkeys takes you directly into settings to the keybinds section, where you can set up keybinds for certain actions. Keybinds are broken down into generic types, and you can also search using the field down the bottom here for specific keybinds. Settings takes you to your gameplay settings, allowing you to change all of the normal stuff you'd expect in a game, and is again separated into tabs for gameplay, graphics, custom graphics, audio, UI, and keybinds. Store takes you to the in-game store. Note that at the time of recording, this window is extremely laggy and you may have to wait several seconds for it to open once clicked. Here you can purchase some in-game items, item skins, and some in-game functions. Things here cost in-game currency, which can only be purchased through the website. Note that you cannot purchase things in the store on the tutorial server or on New Dawn. Goals opens up an achievements window which relates to Steam achievements if you're playing through Steam, and quit, well, it allows you to quit the game. You can also close this top bar by clicking the red arrow next to quit. Before you get started with any in-game tasks, I recommend you stop by the Bartender NPC, which you can find here. You can right click on the bartender and select ask for refreshment, which will fill your food and water. You can do this as many times as you would like for as long as you have the new player blessing. So keeping a mental note of where to find him is useful, and you can also find bartenders at each of the starting towns on the main servers too. It's also worth mentioning that running out of food and water does not mean that you will die. It simply just means that your stamina regen will get increasingly longer and longer, making your character less useful. With all of this information, you are now hopefully ready to take on some of the quests you've accepted, your journal entries, or forge your own path. In our next video, I will show you at a high level how to complete the starter quest here on New Dawn, so keep an eye out for that video. I'll be including a link to the playlist of these tutorial videos in the description below. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could take the time to leave a comment and maybe a like on the video. If you have any specific questions that are not being covered in this video, you can also join my Discord linked in the video description. We have a dedicated Worm channel where myself or other experienced players would be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, happy worming.